Hi everyone. I know we are all virtual, but I want to make sure that we have a interesting conversation about key automation. So let's get started. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen. Then I'm gonna go in presenter mode. All right. I like to see the chat as well, so I'm gonna try to keep the chat open. So excited to be here today, and our talk is going to be about what are your keyway automation strategy. Couple of things we're going to discuss today is really to identify your keyway automation framework, determine what automation testing framework is appropriate for your team, deciding which test to automate among your regression test suite, and then also a little bit talk about how you can introduce machine learning language into your automation strategy. And then at the end, we're going to talk about what is the return on investment for your team. Okay. All right. A little bit about me, because it's always good to share a little bit my experience and why this conversation is really appropriate today. So I'm an author, speaker, podcast host. Basically, I wear a lot of hats. I'm also a woman confidence coach, and but the title that's appropriate for today's conversation is really software quality leader. I've been in the software quality for 16 years, having various roles and building mostly QA organization from the ground up. And what I really love doing is really helping company resolve, or untangle, like I like to say, the software quality challenge through using simple process, solid tool, and a smart team. And today I'm going to be excited to really share in detail my journey and what are the strategy you can use really around QA automation. So let's get started. I know it's virtual, but I really, really enjoy, interaction. So usually most presentation that ask you to ask question at the end, but I really want you to start asking question from now on, and make the chat go really wild, ask all the questions that you feel as we go in, and I have the chat open here, and I'm going to be glancing at the chat because I really want to make this as interactive as possible. I know more people are coming in, and I'm gonna make sure that it's really interactive. So feel free to post your question, ask for clarification, and I will answer them as we go, or we can have plenty of time at the end to really answer them. Now, today's session, right? So, what is the reason why we're here? In every organization that you've been, I'm pretty sure that somebody has came up and asked about we need to start doing automation, QA automation, and this can be a very daunting task, especially if you don't have any clear direction, you don't have any goal, you don't have any action plan. And I have been in that situation, and he has been literally very full of anxiety, because it's a huge task. How do you go about looking at all your regression test suite and determine, going from being really in a manual state to getting into an automation where you're running everything automated? It's a huge daunting task, but what I believe strongly is really working on the strategy. And most companies that I've worked with, I've talked to, and I've consulted with, they really don't pay attention, they jumps right through into trying to execute without actually thinking about how to automate, how to create a strong strategy behind the QA automation. So that's why today's talk is super important about that. So let's get started by trying to learn about a little bit who we have here in the virtual room, right? We have a couple of you guys here. So I want to know, like I told you guys, it's going to be very interactive. So if you can all go to www.menti.com and use this code, I want to know, who do we have in the room? What are your role? Are you mostly QA? Probably not. BA, DevOps, and other roles. So if you can go to menti.com I'm curious, and I'm gonna be looking at it, give you a couple of minutes to see um, how that working. So please enter your your role here in the Menti. So go to www.menti.com and the code is 721139. And I'm gonna give it a couple of minutes so we can, see who we have in the room here. Let's see on the first one. I want to know who is in the room. Yep. I think I clicked early. Yeah. Okay, so I'm seeing developer, dev lead, dev coaches, the VP. I'm thinking VP of technology, quality assurance. Okay. System admin, development lead. I love this word cloud. Menti's asking about QA now. Okay, sorry. So system admin, DevOps, product engineer. Awesome. So give it another minute here. I'm waiting for more folks. Keyword automation. Okay, I know we have a lot more people, but I'm getting less answers. So come on in. I want to know, what is your role? System admin, backend developer, good. DevOps coach, that's a cool role. IT manager. All right. So we have a good mix of folks, so that's good, because for me as a presenter or somebody that is sharing, I want to know who do we have in the room, especially that we're virtual, and how do I tailor the conversation so that I'm not just talking Kiwi here or talking to all Kiwi folks, right? All right, so let's continue. So you guys kind of like stole the question, but one of the first questions that I want to ask is go back to Menti, and I'm going to go back to Menti again. We're going to do a lot of back and forth with Menti a little bit toward the beginning, but it's going to be cool and fun, I like to keep people on their toe when I'm doing a presentation. So this is also a good way, especially when we're virtual. It's good so that, you guys are interacting with me and I don't feel like I'm alone on this island here, right? So who is responsible for keyword automation in your opinion? And I'm going to go back to Menti again. So now, okay, so you guys has been answering this. I see keyword automation engineer. I see somebody say DevOps engineer, senior manager, all developer, SQA. Somebody say everyone. Keyword automation, more. I'll wait a couple of minutes for more again. Everyone involved, dev team, the whole agile team. Okay, some people are using agile. So agile team, no one. Okay, I like that one. Yes, how about no one? Yeah, I like that answer too. Okay, keep it coming. I give another few seconds. We have a lot more people. I need more. I need at least 50% participation. I need 50% participation. Keep going. At least 50% participation. So keep it going. The whole agile team, all developer, SQE, developer leader. I like that. Yeah, why not? All right. I need 3 more people so we can have 50% participation. Everybody, senior manager. Is that the same thing? All right. One more. All right. Okay. Good. One more or 2 more just to make me feel great because I say 50% participation. All right. Let's go back. Okay. So as you can see, huge variety of response, right? So we got develop manager, whole team, agile team. So who is really responsible for QA automation? And for me, I like to talk about total quality mindset. I'm not gonna dive into the mindset, but I'll hint to it, I'll hint to it throughout the presentation. But the answer, if there's any correct answer ever, is everyone in the delivery team, So whoever is touching and interacting with delivering this complex solution that you guys are working on is responsible for QA automation. So let's break the myth of QA automation being only QA folks being only responsible for QA automation. That is not a healthy thing. That is not a safe thing, and it's totally not something successful. So let's break that myth. So it's everybody, and I think you guys kind of like got that answer. So that's great. So now I want to talk about a list of typical pain point, because in my opinion, nobody talk about automation when things are going great, rarely. And you guys can go in the chat room and tell me if I'm wrong. But usually we start talking about automation when we're having some friction, when things are not going right, right? So when you go out there and look, and for me, talking to team and managing team and directing team and coaching team for over 10 or 12 years, these are like the typical pain point that I've always hear. So we'll go through them. Lack of acceptance criteria in your user story. So these are for the team that are really doing agile. But even if you're not doing agile, it's usually the requirements are not well defined, you know, and QA is being a bottleneck. That's also something that I hear a lot. QA is being a bottleneck. Defect are not prioritized well. So we have a lot of defect, and it's not prioritized. So we don't really know what direction to go. There's no visibility in implementation detail. So usually, and this is probably from QA or from BA or even from stakeholder, that, okay, we don't really know what's happening. It's like a black box. They just deliver stuff and throw it over the wall to us. Lack of confidence in the dev code quality. So these are really teams that are getting a lot of error, a lot of bugs every time they get a code delivered into production. So there's really lack of confidence coming from stakeholder, because one other thing that I love doing is really talking to a stakeholder to really understand what are their pain points. Because guess what? The pain point is different from everybody that you talk to in the organization. We need need of a stable environment for automation, right? So environment or lack of environment is always something that you always have to struggle with. And the last one that I have here is too much time spent on tested activity. So okay, folks, QA, time is money, and they're spending way too much time testing, so we need to do something about it. And the links will go on, and this is going to be an activity that we're going to get to do, and you guys will tell me your pain point. So what is your pain point? Let's go back to Menti. And in an ideal situation, everybody will be in a group, and I'll put you guys up in a group, and you'll be discussing, what is your team organization pain point, and we'll go through that as a workshop style. But I still want you, because I want you to take this things that you learned from this presentation and perhaps take it to your team, and do the same exercise with your team to define, what are your pain points. So yeah, what are your pain points? So go to Menti again, same code, and let's see if um, you guys are, oh, interesting. Let me go back. Okay, so I'm missing that slide. That's fine. I think I have another slide where we can talk about this later. So let's keep going. All right, so when you look at your pain point, and I'll give you guys time at the end to do this, look at the result of your pain point. This is usually when I'm doing this one face-to-face, is I ask you to define, to have this 3 quadrant and talk about what are the pain point, who is responsible, who in your mind is supposed to be responsible. Because it's always good to say, okay, defect are not prioritized, who is responsible? For instance, it should be the QA team. And what is the solution in your mind that you should do, or as a team you should do. So these three columns help you kind of like start navigating your pain point and really trying to find, possible solution. But you might not know the right solution, but possible solution to get you started. Now, let's talk about current trend, that somebody started talking about agile. So in order for you to define your automation strategy, really, you got to start thinking about what are the current trend out there, because organization and team are in various situation, various levels. So agile and scrum, somebody talk about agile team. So that's definitely a trend, something that your team can consider. Design thinking is really, how are you really thinking about designing your application? Customer centricity is really a buzzword these days, and the rest is really about your technology stack or your technology platform, or how you actually implementing stuff. Are you doing BDD, ADD, TDD? DevOps. I saw some of you are DevOps. So are you considering having a DevOps system in your company? Infrastructure as a service. Are you considering that? Are you doing CI/CD, CTCM? Continuous integration, continuous delivery, continuous testing, continuous monitoring. These are all trend that is out there, because when you are trying to get into automation, you got to pick, it's like a menu, right? You got to pick one of these trend and try to adapt it, embrace it somehow. More on trend on tools, right? This slide is a little bit kind of like fast forward things that we have been talking about, things that we might want to experience a little bit. So migration of your test assets from framework to target, removing duplication and optimize your test case creation. Dynamically set up your test environment on demand, validating your coding standard, executing your code in a separator, and make it very flexible. Predicting the future defect and recommend action based on historical data. So these are really fast forward on trends. Some of you guys might be in company where you're already been experimenting this, but these are not the popular, but the still trend that you can consider. Now, before you adopt any automation framework or think about what you're going to do, you got to think about the trade-off, because no organization exists in a vacuum, right? You exist around, you have an organization culture, and you definitely, especially for software delivery, you are definitely influenced by the motivation of your stakeholder, right? And in different organizations, there's different organization culture that is influencing you, and also different motivation from the stakeholder. Some are less, some are more, but these are the 3 points that I really feel like you need to really consider. Is it innovation? Are you in an organization where innovation is your way of living? You always have to be on the cutting edge. You got to be doing the latest thing, the greatest thing. So innovation might be your thing. Or maybe your organization is only just focusing on delivering value consistently to your stakeholders. So you just delivering value, when you make your customer happy, that's really the way to go. Or maybe your guys' organization is really about cost saving. So by all means, cost saving is your way of living. I've been in an organization where cost saving is everything. So everything that you have to do, you got to think about how you save money, how you don't spend too much money. So even finding your tool, your framework, your hiring, it's all depending on really, around the cost saving mindset. So everybody has to go and figure out for themselves, what are the driver in my organization to really making a decision. If it's innovation, then I gotta think about those trends that we talked about in the previous slide. And this is crucial, and this is something that I see a lot of folks also zip through. You got to define your why. And in anything, any endeavor that you do, let's for a minute, let's get out of the whole automation, but any endeavor that you take on, and automation is definitely, a huge endeavor for your organization, because you're going to be doing it for years. You have to know your North Star. And I love this book by Simon Sinek, which is Start With Why. And the quote that I share here is, and it's those who start with why that have the ability to inspire those around them and find others who inspire them. Because believe it or not, your team is going to be going through this automation transformation journey with you. So you have to be able to tell them the reason why you're doing this. And you collectively, you got to come as a team to decide, why are we doing automation? Now that you define your pain point, and you know the possible trend out there, it's really good to collectively, because one of the pitfall is also when leadership on top just come and say we got to do automation, and people don't buy in. So you got to get the buy-in really from your team, because they're going to be the one going through this amazing and long journey with you in terms of like automating your stuff. So definitely have your North Star, because that's what's going to allow you to stay on the journey, because the journey is going to be long and hard. Now let's talk a little bit about framework and tool. I don't want to spend too much time here, because I know us textfold, we get really hung into like, what is the tool? What is the framework? But I think this is an internal discussion, and I'm not here to really prescribe what you should pick or what you should select as a tool. For me, finding a framework or finding a tool is almost like dating. You have to do that dance. You need to know what do you want, and you need to know what is on the market, and try to see what is the exact match for you, your team capability, and your organization. But a couple of things you need to consider here is really, there's two categories of tool out there in the marketplace right now for QA automation. There's the codeless tool, where it's great for folks that don't want to spend too much time writing automation script on a daily basis, but they want to leverage the tool to really script for them, but yet you still need to also spend a lot of time maintaining. So it's not really an easy task, but it's still less work. And the script-based tool, if your organization have cost saving or innovation or other driver, this might be good for you, but this usually require you to hire almost a full-time automated engineer, automation engineer. And those and writing a script-based, using a script-based tool is entirely almost like a full software development project. So you have to find the balance for your organization and what's going to work well. You also have to determine, based on your team capability, and training need, because who do you have? Do you just have right now a lot of manual test engineer that are test engineer that you have, and how do you change them to embrace automation tools or any of those tools? Oh, and what kind of training do you need? That's also something you need to figure it out. So you have to choose a framework and tool that easily also integrate with your and complement with your ecosystem. So you have to make a stock of what do I have already in my ecosystem, right? And trying to find a tools that set you path forward. What are the things that I usually like to tell my client is find a tools, almost do like a mind map of what you want, right? The different feature that you need based on your point that we talked about earlier. And then look for a tool, for instance, that give you 12 out of the 15 feature, because you don't want to also get a tool where it has like 15 great feature, but you can only currently use 5 or 6 of them. It's really a waste of money. Try to use as many as a feature as possible. And there's some great feature out there, and you might not need them right now. And so you might not want to spend that money. So you really have to find, what is easily going to be integrated into your ecosystem and complement what you already have available out there. All right. I also want to talk about leveraging AI-based tool, because that's really what's out there in the marketplace right now. It provides really the ability to have intelligent testing, and I love empowering QA team to become smart team, and have the ability to, so using AI-based tool. I have a whole presentation that I do on how AI can change the way we do QA automation. But on a small scale, just to talk about it here, is there's various feature out there that AI-based tool can provide you, and it's nicely integrate in your CI/CD pipeline, such as error detection in each environment. If you like me, one of my strong pet peeve is really testing in one environment and realize that in the next environment, there's issue, and then you have to do the same root cause analysis again in the next next environment. So error detection, visual testing, it's the ability to constantly test and execute your test from one environment to the other. And there's so many other functionality and feature that AI-based tool provide, such as auto healing, visual testing, and API testing as well. Now, activity time, because I think I've been talking for a great while. I want to see the question, but let's go to Menti one more time. All right, okay, the chat is here. So one of the things that I want to talk about here is and have you guys chime in a little bit is now we want to shift and start talking about your technology stack. So in terms of your technology stack, it's just good. Again, if this was face to face, I'll put you guys in a group again and you take your pain point, your possible solution that you are coming up with. And here, if you can use the same code again, 721139 from menti.com, and talk about your application and platform. What kind of application do you have? What kind of programming language are you using? Is it a cloud based? Is it a let me go back here. I have a list of the question. That way I'll show you the question. You guys can, yeah. So discuss in your group and answer the following question, and just throw them on the Menti board, and I'll go back and check it. Are all your application in the same programming language? Is the application on the cloud? On premise? I apologize, but there's a noise in the background. What are the security concerns? Because security is important these days. What are the security concerns, and is there any data warehouse involved? And I'm gonna try to mute myself for just a second. All right. This was bad timing, right? The garbage. Folks are collecting garbage in my neighborhood just in front of my house. So sorry, but I've been looking at Menti, and you guys have been adding a lot of stuff here. It's great. React, JavaScript, Docker, Cypress for testing. Cool. So keep it going. I actually have more stronger I know, so many background noise, right? Thank you. Thank you for understanding. So yeah, I actually have a lot more. Maybe because I mute myself, I didn't have to encourage you guys to answer, but we have more than 50% participation. So yeah, keep it going. It's actually cathartic to think about what is your platform, and what are the challenge that you might have. So keep it going, and I'll definitely, so many different platforms, totally. Jenkins, yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna save this and review them and just see what are out there. It's great to see, and then you guys can see that too. So keep it going. Keep it going. Docker, AWS, yeah, Cloud, Azure, GSP, Java. Okay. Oracle. I saw mainframe earlier, so that's interesting. Because you got to understand that for each platform application that you have, the challenge are personal, if I can say it that way, right? So that's why you can't really prescribe and say do this, because you got to think of it from a really an internal organization wise challenge or struggle that you go through, because each platform and application will give you different set of challenge, and there will be a different set of solution as well. All right, cool. So let's go back now here, and then I have the chat open again, so and then I can see question as well, so this is great. So discuss, so let's see. So possible solution, right? Possible solution you can think of is really to ensure that your process are defined. You know, one of the things that we omit doing is really to make sure, because most folks that I talk to, or most organizations that I get a chance to talk to, is really the process is broken. You know, it's always start with the process is broken. The people are never broken. Let me just say that for real. It's always the process and the system. So I want to accentuate that, you know, we got to ensure that some of the process are defined, stabilized, and standardized, you know. So those three steps are super important. You got to define the process, make sure that it's stable, because you're gonna go through this the process several times, and then you're gonna learn from it and say, okay, this does not work for us, this work for us, and then you're gonna standardize and say this is what we're doing going forward. So a couple of things that I share here is really about starting with the shifting left approach. You know, you guys have here a lot about shifting left approach, you know, from us in the QA land, QA industry. Set up a training plan to become T-shaped mostly for your team, you know. So everybody is from different part of the organization here, and the goal is really to be able to develop, deploy, and demo. That's what I always tell folks, like that's really the end goal, you know. You got to develop, deploy, and be able to demo to your stakeholders. So everything that happened in between, anybody in the team should be able to own that, you know, own that and become T-shape. You know, T-shape is really you have your focus area, and then you have other area where you can also have a general knowledge about. So increase your testing coverage in non-functional area. That's another possible solution that I offer here, because usually one of the things that we overlook, you know, everybody focusing about functional testing, but security testing, performance testing, load testing, accessibility testing, those are also pain point that we leave it off, and we only discuss it maybe at the last hour before we go into deployment, and usually those are the ones that really, you know, cause all the pain that we go through. So maybe increase your time spent around those areas as well, especially security and accessibility, because you want to include everybody in your user experience. And just like I was saying, inclusive testing culture, right? So this includes, I love talking about inclusion testing culture, because everybody, just like we started, right, who is responsible for automation is everybody. So you got to make sure that everybody is including in your testing, in the testing culture, from the developer, from the BA, from the stakeholder. I want anybody to pick up a test and be able to understand it, execute it, and even find bug if possible. And that does not take anything away from me being a software quality person. Embrace the total quality mindset. It's the same mindset here. Allow everybody to take a peek into the testing activity and have some say about it, and give feedback, you know. So another thing that I love doing is I've been doing it for a year, And every time I introduce it in an organization, it seems like it's something super amazing, but it's super simple. It's just the ability to allow the developer to see the test cases. You know, they don't, just like we QA want to see the code, or we want to participate in a code review. You also want developer to see the test. You know, share the test, review the test with the developer. That way, it really an amazing thing, because it reduces a lot of the friction and a lot of waste, you know. And I'm big into like efficiency and in automation, so that really reduces the weight. Because as a QA person, I don't want to be off the island trying to test something that is not valuable to the stakeholder, to the end user. And that's unnecessary, or not even a usable case that the developer is working on. So having that total quality mindset make everybody involved in the quality conversation. Other possible solution is really, again, have better test strategy and planning. You know, that's what we're talking about strategy here. Have better, you know, level of effort estimation is like I say, it's a sport, literally, you know. And it's a dance. You have to do it wrong with your team and determine how much I need to estimate. But we waste a lot of time in our estimation because we don't do a better work at it. Define metrics. You know, I love data, and I feel like if you don't measure something, you can improve it. So you got to define, you know, some project health metrics around to really determine, you know, are we going in the right direction, are we trending in the right direction. Also define some quality KPI metric as well. So internal KPI and also external KPI, because not everybody is interested in seeing the same data. Because data, if I see a data, I need to be able to make some decision with the data, you know. And if I can't make a decision with the data, it's really useless for me. So define KPI that is matter for everybody. And define sanity test case. It's like super basic, but this is super important. You know, it's like I want to make sure I get into team where they don't have sanity test case, but they have a bunch of functional automation, some super cool tests. But simple things like sanity test case is overlooked and is really important. It make really efficient actually. And to reduce your blast rate and defect leakage. One of the things that I read a couple of years ago is the confidence that the QA team have in developer decrease per every year for number of error that they find. You know, so you really want to reduce that blast rate and defect leakage time and time. I know we're going over time. I mean, I'm getting close, and I want to have time to really answer your questions. So I might skip through this team activity, but I'll share what they are. So this is something that I like to do also. Define with your team, you know, what is the success going forward? What do you guys need to do to be successful? And make a list of possible solution. You know, I share the solution that are out there, right? That you can, it's like a menu again. Which one do you want to pick? And which one do you want to embrace? Which one do you want to adopt as a team, you know? So make the list of possible solution that is going to work for your team into your reality, right? So I'm gonna skip this mentee part because I feel like we are not together in a team setting, but I want to make sure that you guys do this and you can actually use my mentee to play with it even after the presentation. I'll be happy to see your possible solution that you want to embrace, you know, based on what I told. So do use the mentee for that. You know, it's open until the end of the day for the next 2 days, and do find the possible solution. You know, talk about the possible solution that you wanna embrace, you know. And usually this is how I want the possible solution to be, and this is the sheet that I want you to take away home, really literally. You know, go back to your pain point that we started with. um the garbage bin is back. Go back to your QA pain point. um I feel like next time I have a presentation, I'm gonna schedule it or talk to my local waste management team, right, and ask them what time do you guys stop by, so that my presentation is not around that time. But I'm trying to be funny here. Um, all right, good. So think about your QA pain point in one column that we talked about earlier, and then think about your QA automation strategy solution. the one that you possibly want to embrace, and have them here. And this is your sheet. I used to have this at my desk at work when I used to be in the office, and then I just have it, so I know it's gonna like create a roadmap for you, and then you can now have a really a straightforward direction that you go into, you know. All right, I'll go through this slide super fast so we have plenty of time for QA. Next step, frame up your goal, like I mentioned. So define your goal, track it, and report on your success as often as possible. Couple of things that I want to share here is our next step. These are like things that you can think about to do as well. Part of possible solution: automate critical path of your application to regression tests. No QA environment, but invest in heavy monitoring. That's also like a trend going forward. Use container Docker, and I saw some of you are already using Docker to test your code in production and incrementally deploy live in UAT. That's something you can try. Include bot and machine learning into your environment that learn your code issue and alert when defect is critical. That's also a cool way. Review product service that require testing, free, easy flow, and less risk. So these are like things you can consider going forward. No QA environment, but invest in heavy monitoring. So this is the same. So now let's talk about ROI quickly, as much as we can. Let's talk about ROI. So I like to talk about ROI because what is the return on investment? Why are we doing this? You know, some metric to consider really quickly. Business requirement to calculate your ROI. Some metrics to consider. Test case for each requirement. Percentage of test case that need to be automated. Test case complexity, the test case prior to requirement need for regression testing, and the number of configuration that need to be tested. These are all things you need to consider to really determine your testing ROI. And you also have to consider the capability of your team, right? You know, the knowledge of your automation engineer. And lastly, you have to define a baseline. That's super important. And you can do a proof of concept at the beginning to just see how successful this strategy can be for you for a smaller project or smaller team, you know, and then enhance it later so you can learn from it and make it better. But you got to define a baseline on all your manual testing, how long they take, you know, and before you can move forward. And this is my last slide, and it's super important. You have to think about the ROI for your team happiness, because when we're doing automation, there's pain point that we talk about at the beginning, but those pain points directly correlate to the team happiness factor. And that's something that we don't usually talk about in this kind of setting when we're talking about strategy or automation and all that. But the ROI for your team is really cross-functional team involvement, better team engagement if you really have a strong strategy and roadmap, and go through this transformation successfully. And it's a great teamwork collaboration. And my last one that I really love is QA become a fun activity and no longer a bottleneck. So that's the recap. You know, I'm gonna skip through the recap so we can thank you for joining me today. This was fun. You know, I wish I didn't have too much background noise, so I waste a couple of minutes there. But I want to now hear your question. But I have a blog on, this is the link here, Zsquare Solution Inc./blog. And I actually had like 3 long article on Q automation, 3-part series on Q automation. And let's connect. I'm on all social media at Zsquare, and on Instagram as Zsquare4. So thank you, and I'm gonna stop sharing at least so that we can look at the question for the next couple of minutes left. All right. Should RJ, should I just read the question and start answering them, or okay?
Yes, if you can, we have some questions in the Q&A function, and we also have some comments in the chat that you could take.
Okay, one of the first questions that I see in the Q&A is, how can a small team with limited QA knowledge start on QA automation? Awesome. Small team. Actually, all the QA team are always small. So this is everything that I mentioned in the presentation directly can work for a small team, but I think the term small is really around, you know, maybe I don't have, and you can chime in and give a little elaborate on the question, but it's probably what you're trying to say here is you don't have other folks, you know, doing automation. So that means you have one person doing automation, no QA team, just two dev. Perfect, are there. So you don't even have QA team. So this is even uh, this add to the challenge. So you have two developers. So now they need dual role, right? Which it's not really the case, because you can ask your developer to play the QA role, if they have the chop and they understand how to test. So then your developer can also be a QA person. So they can follow the same strategy, but they need to find the time, they need to find the capability. But like I say at the beginning, it's not their responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility, the little responsibility that is for this one QA, one dev or two dev is really, are they going to be the one scripting? That's really the responsibility. But the thought process and the strategy that come along is really for the entire team. So is the team just a two developer? Probably not. You probably have a BA, you probably have other folks that need to also chime in to even define the framework, find the tools, and find the possible solution that we discussed. All right, let me look here. No QA, just to dev. Okay, I'm gonna close that so I can see. Background noise, 5 minutes left. Thank you. Good stuff. Creative to strategize. Will you share the slide? Sure, I can share the slide. I have a PDF form. I can send it to, send me an email, I guess. Put your email here and then I can send you the slide, or maybe I'll send it to RJ and then you can share with the attendees. Oh, will you share the slide? Your neighborhood has. Oh gosh, that was funny. No worry. I think that was a nice background noise, right? No worry. Okay, I'm just going through the stuff here. So somebody say +1 for Simon Sinek. I love Simon Sinek. This is, so that was about Minty. Any other question? Because I'm going through the top here. Have an developer search a company. Okay, so that was the top. Do you see any other question that I'm missing, RJ? Because
No, I do not, Lisa, and we are at time. So if they do have any more questions for you, please send your information to Lisette. She's got her blog, she has her social media handles and emails. I think is everything that's in there. So again, thank you so much for attending, and thanks for the presentation. Test automation is such an important topic in DevOps. That's why we chose this talk. Such great strategies that you shared. So thank you.